Well, everybody, welcome to the 4th episode of the Assorted Kinds podcast.
Yay!
This one celebrating the release of Kevin Rosen Quan's Choices.
Yay!
On AssortedKinds.com.
Nice. I have been itching to be on a podcast on this podcast for so long. I just had to make a whole film to do it. But it was worth it. It was worth it in the end. I think we'll find.
Why don't will everybody introduce themselves? Kevin, we starting with you.
Okay, it's me. I'm Kevin. I wrote it, and then I also directed it after I wrote it. And then I edited it too, but we'll get to that.
In that order.
Matt Devino.
I'm Matt Devino. I make movies with these guys.
What did you do on the film, on Choices?
I think I DIT this one.
No,
I don't remember.
You didn't DIT.
What did I do?
You
I
were
did
BTS. You
BTS.
shot in this. If you look at the BTS photo, which is on the page, the video page right now, you'll actually see a BTS video that's been edited together by our DP Jeremy Brilliant, who is not here today, unfortunately, but will be singing his praises all night. And all that footage was shot by Matt over here.
Yeah.
Now I remember doing that.
Great job, Matt.
Yeah, good job.
That's why you're not in any of the videos.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jana, and I produced.
Yay.
Yay.
What? First time producer. Oh, yay!
That's it. She did it.
Hi, I'm Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Nicole associate produced Choices.
Yeah.
Associate producer. Mostly, I was the lead actress in.
That's right. She had to produce and act in it.
And make breakfast burritos.
It's tough doing both.
Did you do breakfast burritos for this
damn
one?
good breakfast
Dang,
burritos. I remember those
dude.
breakfast burritos.
Yeah, it's tough.
This
you really
is where
set
I
a precedent.
did. This is the one I did too much.
Yeah, you did.
I was way too tired.
You did. You were so excited about it.
I was.
I'm Chris, and I was the first AD, and
And you were also in it.
I was in it. Yeah.
Big movie stars.
Yeah. And then David's here with us producing.
Yeah, if I sound like I'm in the
Engineering.
other room, it's because my mic isn't working as well. But I did not work on this film because actually I was emotionally recovering from my film that we had shot the month before.
That's right. We almost killed him.
Yeah.
What's the name of that film, David?
It's called 9-2, and it's coming soon, guys.
It's coming real soon.
This year.
On AssortedKinds.com.
Hold on, everybody. Wait, we've got
Hold for a second.
we've got Harley Davidson. The Harley Davidson actually lives across the street from me, and he likes to.
Kevin, introduce the project to us. Tell us a little bit about this short film.
This project's called Choices. It's a kind of an experimental short, I guess. The script itself is just kind of seemingly like a sketch about two people trying to order dinner at a restaurant, but the experimental part of it is that we actually got 7 different couples to perform the same scene, so same dialogue in the same place, and then we mixed and matched in the editing room and cut together a whole mishmash of everybody all together. And that was Choices, which so many choices on so many levels. The choices, the script is about making choices, and then the whole darn edit ended up being about choices. So many choices.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about on this one.
So much.
Why do you guys think this one got picked in our democracy that is Assorted Kinds script selection process?
I'm going to take this one to start.
Thank you, Matt.
So I remember when Kevin showed up with the script, every month we have a meeting at the beginning of the month, and anyone that wants to bring a script can bring a script, and we read them as a group.
Not anybody in Assorted Kinds.
Anyone within our collective, our filmmaking collective, can bring a script, and we read them together, and we share feedback, and then we decide which one we're going to make that month. When Kevin brought this one, he did something a little different where he's basically introduced the script to us, but then said, now what's not in the script is the way to film this. It's the concept, and that's really more important than any of the words on this page. And he explained that he wanted to have a bunch of different actors all play the same part and intercut them together. No one had done this before within our group. No one had basically entered the situation with a stipulation on how it would be done that we couldn't just get from reading the script. And so that, I think, piqued a lot of interest from everyone.
A lot of ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Myself included. I mean, so the horrible admission is that I hate writing. I hate screenwriting. I didn't want to write this. I didn't want to do it. And but I was in love with this concept of cutting around between people and having people jump in and out. And I was so interested in the concept that I was starting to extrude like how it was going to be shot. It was like, how am I going to do this? What's the logistics? Oh, we're going to need 3 cameras. We're going to need to set it up like this. We're going to need to have it be here, maybe in a restaurant or something like that, or an office or something. It has to be 2 people. Maybe it's a job interview. I thought it might be a job interview at some point. But I don't care what the writing is. I don't want to write it. The writing is stupid, and I hate it. I hate it so much. So I was ready to. I was like, but I want to shoot this so bad, and the only way to do it is you got to submit a script.
Dang it.
And I was gonna break the rules of Assorted Kinds. I was ready to break the rules and come in without a script, but with a concept, and just say, here's the concept. I love the concept. I've thought about how to shoot it. There's so much I know about the concept, but I haven't written anything. Is there a screenwriter out there that would like to take this concept and apply it to a script with 2 people? And that's what I was ready to do, all the way up until about, let's say, 3 hours before the workshop. At which point I was
Really?
like, yeah. And so I'm literally like pacing around my house, just like, God, it's so stupid. This is so stupid. You're gonna do a concept. You're gonna look Chris in the eye and be like, oh, I don't have a script because I'm above that. But here's a concept. Let's shoot that. You're really gonna do that right now? And I was like, oh God, I gotta write a script. And so I like busted out my laptop and just like mashed my hands on the keyboard for 3 hours. And out came that script, and I don't recommend that people do that, and I also recommend people refine and rewrite their scripts, but I did neither of those things. And that script that was written in those 3 hours is essentially what made it all the way through till the actual cut and everything. So crazy. I still hate writing, but I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I was able to present a script and not just the concept. And I'm glad that the group, inadvertently pushed me into getting over that hump of writing something, and that's really helped me a lot.
I'm thankful that in your version 1 of that script, the words 2 risottos got put in there.
Oh man, when I wrote that down, I definitely
I can't believe you did that in 3 hours.
I definitely laughed at that line. I was like, what's the dumbest food name that can come out of people's mouths? Like, what can I have people say like a bunch of times in a stupid word? How about risotto? Yeah. That word sounds awesome coming out of people's mouths.
That's the most fun part. Writing is hard, right? Writing is really hard. And that's the most fun part of those, and you're like, what's the stupidest thing I can put right here?
Yeah.
And then I'll be in my office working on the script, and I'll just start laughing because it's so dumb.
Yeah, it's
and then Nicole's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing, dummy?
Wow.
But it can be so fun coming up with that stuff, and it really did like get a kick out of coming up with this stuff. But I mean, it really was. I don't know if I was gonna say like a Woody Allen moment, but I have no idea how Woody Allen does his stuff. So who knows? But it felt like it was, I wasn't going too far out of my own voice. It was just kind of like, batting these ideas around in my own head, and this is sort of what came out if I were to have the argument with myself.
Well, it was pretty fun rehearsing the lines because it was so natural.
Right.
Nicole and I played 2 of the characters out of the how many? 14.
Right. Well, yeah, you paid a couple out of the 7 couples that we had.
One of the 7 couples, and we would just rehearse it over like breakfast.
That's awesome.
Having breakfast, like rehearsing the lines, and
because you guys lived it, you guys have. It's such a great bonus, like having you guys as a couple. Because most of the couples that we had there were like they had not even met each other before. They didn't even know who each other was, but we did get to have one couple that was like knew each other intimately, and that was awesome to get a version of it that was like that.
We were the only one.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Adriana and Mark were friends. Adriana, which we'll get into later, she was also one of the characters, but she was the casting director, and she's really responsible for getting everybody. So she kind of knew a lot of those folks, but when we matched them all up, they definitely hadn't met each other.
I wanna go back a little bit and why this concept? What about this concept got you excited?
Gosh, I mean, yeah, this is kind of, I'm going to maybe parrot a little bit what I said in the BTS video that you guys have already watched, I'm sure. I think it was a concept that I like, a joke that I came up with like a boom op that I was on set. I'm a sound mixer by trade, so we were just doing our job or whatever and talking about it, and we're always talking about little jokes like that. Like, I guess the joke was just like, what if you have two people talking and it's just shot, reverse shot, you look at one person, you look at the other person, but then at one point you look back at a person, it's someone different, and then you swap them back in again, and you wonder, like, did the audience catch that? Did the audience get weirded out by that? How does the audience react to that? And usually that's as far as the idea gets. You go, oh, that's funny. Or you might even get as far as to be like, oh man, we should shoot that. Yeah, we should shoot that. That's cool. And that's as far as and the worst thing is, like, I don't even write any of those things down. I have friends who have just notebooks and notebooks filled with stuff because they're smart enough to write it down. I'm too stupid to even do that. And I'm really forgetful. We'll learn that on next podcast.
Then I'm done.
For my next project's podcast.
Coming soon.
But I don't remember any of those stupid things. We come up with a million things like that, and so that was the idea. That was the thing. Is like I think that idea more than some of the other ones, though. I really just wanted to sit around my house alone and brainstorm just the nittiest, grittiest, smallest details of how to go about shooting that idea. And it just reached a critical mass where I was like, all right, well, this is all but shot in my brain. We just have to go and do it. Mm-hmm. So I better get a script together and actually put some spine around this idea so we can actually go and shoot it.
Kevin, I don't know if I told you how proud of a moment it was when you brought that script into the space, because one of the reasons that Assorted Kinds existed, because I was like, I work with this sound guy and he's so rad, and I know that he is more than a sound guy, and now he's
it's true. Before this, I'd only worked with Kevin as a sound guy.
Right. And that's my Peter Parker. That's my that's my Clark Kent.
Now 2 full films in with him, I know much better.
Yeah. That's not to get too deep into it, but that was sort of how I met Chris and got into Assorted Kinds, was because I was just doing sound for Chris, and he would talk about these things, sometimes not with me, with other people, and I'd be like, how do I get into that conversation? I want to talk about that. I've been wanting to talk about these things with somebody for forever. And usually, my friends will listen to me for so long, and then they'll be like, just please stop talking about this stuff. But Chris is always game to talk about this sort of stuff, and so eventually I was like, hey man, let's talk about producing things. Let's talk about what you're doing here. And he's like, well, get on in here and find out.
So let's move on to production. What was production like?
Well, yeah,
That thing?
I wanted to mention too. So okay, so the first time we submitted the script, I don't know if you guys remember, it wasn't picked.
We don't.
That's
the thing we do.
Secretly resented everybody.
Sure. That's fine.
Put you on a little
black.
book.
Right?
No, it didn't get chosen because, and I believe I myself voted for something else.
What was it?
I don't remember what it was.
I don't either.
You got beat out by
9-2 would be.
Was it the previous month?
I think it was. Yeah, it was 9-2, and I voted for 9. I voted for 9-2 that month because I was really interested in getting it made. Unfortunately, I didn't actually get to be a part of getting it made, but I'd like to think that I had a little involvement because I voted for it. But anyway, it didn't get chosen the first month. The second month, I actually wasn't present physically. I was Skyping in, and we read all the other scripts. We didn't read mine again. We read all the scripts, and we were about to vote on those scripts. And I was like, "Hey guys, before we vote on those scripts, I submitted a script last month. You want to maybe vote on that too?" And then I was like, very quickly, they were like, "No, oh yeah, right, that's right, that one from last month. We want to do that one." And they ended up voting on that. And then I hear this voice that's just like, "I'll produce it." And I was like, what? Oh, really? Because I've never had anybody volunteer to help, at all. And I had
too.
Yeah, just produce or anything. No one's ever volunteered. It's just I got to do this all myself, and I got to, maybe I'll ask some people,
just
and
they'll
help out. So this voice from nowhere is just like, "I'll do it." Pick me. I was like, "Awesome, you're hired!" Immediately, you're hired. And I hadn't even met Jana at that point. I'd met Matt, but I hadn't even met Jana. And she had no idea who I was. I'm sure Matt didn't give her some big sell beforehand. She just jumped into it, sight unseen. And this is her first thing to produce too. And I'm sitting here talking about all the logistics and how we're going to need all this stuff, to shoot it. And there's completely, unintimidated, just jumped right into it. And then Nicole, of course, as well. Both of them tag teamed it and basically took care of pretty much all of pre-production for me.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Nicole's like, I'm not letting Jana take this on her own.
Girl no, that's just scary. It's like you just need to know, even if you don't need the help, you just need to know that someone's there that has your back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she was most familiar with me, I feel like, rather than asking Chris, like, whatever, if Matt's working, bothering him about stuff or, she knows she can talk to me about anything. So it just felt right to.
And Nicole's thing is, like, she's been doing, I'm going to talk about her like she's not here and not looking at me right now. How stupid is that? How dumb is that? Nicole, like, became, at least as she was at that point, she was just like, it was like assumed. We were all making these, just taking so much advantage of her that we were like all making the assumption, she's going to associate produce this. She associate produces everything. If she happens to be available and she's not on the moon somewhere, like, she's going to be involved in the producing of this thing, whether it's on set on the day, which she was trying to do even while acting, which is crazy. But it was almost it should be embarrassing for me to think, but it was like a foregone conclusion. Like, oh yeah, and when Nicole's like, oh yeah, and I'll help you out. I was like, yeah, I know. We know you're gonna help her out, obviously.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Okay, so
it sounds so mean, but it's hopefully the compliment is that, like, it's just like,
That helpful.
you're that cornerstone. So and we all
every
feel that way.
single film that we've done so far.
Yeah.
Nicole's been a part of them.
Absolutely.
So Jana,
Yeah.
I want to hear about your experience on this because
Yeah, so do I.
you are not a filmmaker by trade.
And if you need me to,
a
like, take
lot
my
of us.
headphones off and leave the room to, like, talk candidly, you can. That's totally fine.
Candidly?
I want to know.
Yeah.
Like you helped out on Last One Screaming.
I
you're-
got pizza.
Very important.
and an associate producer credit for that.
well
But-
deserved.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
But yeah, you never had any, like, interest in filmmaking before this group. Like, obviously we're married, but we'd never worked on projects together before. So yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about, like, why you wanted to produce this, why you wanted to get more involved with the club, and what your experience was like, because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I want to know too. I never
Yeah.
asked you this.
So I am the only one at this table that isn't in film, and I don't have any experience besides watching movies. And everyone seemed really great when we were on set for Last One Screaming, so I wanted to spend a little bit more time with people. So I just volunteered for something that Matt said I would be good at because I'm type A and like to organize things and, do
I'm
Excel
totally type A
spreadsheets.
too, but
so.
I'm, like, lazy, so
Yeah, so
Jana
we
was, like,
did the
perfect.
spreadsheet.
She, like, did all the things for me, and I was just, like, so cathartic, like, oh yes, all this stuff's getting done. But I didn't have to do it myself. It was great.
Yeah, but it was really fun because I had a backbone. Nicole was pretty much on call for me whenever I had any questions. Had to talk about what needed to be done and when. There's a thing called a production calendar that I had no idea about, but it was in Excel, so I could, work with it. Everything from organizing casting to figuring out where we were going to shoot. I had never been in touch with locations before. I had never rented a porta potty before.
That's right.
Pink one.
Yeah, I specifically required a pink porta potty that she had to
So
go all over
glad
town to
you
made
got
it
find.
happen.
I'm so glad you got the
Yeah, so I'm used to selling clothing to buyers of stores and looking at spreadsheets and talking about percent sell-throughs and nothing creative. So I was excited to be able to find a role that I could be helpful to the collective and getting the job done. And plus the script was so fun.
Awesome.
I just sat
Aw,
back and laughed my ass off on set. So it was a great deal.
It was a really fun time on set. That's awesome.
And now, that was the kickoff to Jana's producing career. Now she's on her third producing credit. Right?
Yeah, not to mention that she, again, I keep talking about this other project I'm not supposed to talk about, but she just finished assistant directing my last project, so we've got a good ongoing relationship. But one thing I wanted to say, though, was that I think it's a good testament to Assorted Kinds and the Assorted Kinds vibe that we're able to put together an environment for someone like Jana to be like, I can do this. Look at all these people who support me. There's no one here that's gonna like come down on me or like be upset with me. Like there's nothing. I'm just surrounded by support. Why wouldn't I go and do this? And that doesn't happen overnight. That's something that has to be like worked really hard at, and so that's something it's a big asset that Assorted Kinds provides to everybody.
It's the definitely one of the special ingredients of Assorted Kinds, and it's something I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the actual production, because the way the set worked and the way, especially the cinematography worked, was very different than anything I've ever worked on in my decade plus of playing with cameras on sets.
Yeah. So because of the concept, well, first of all we had to find like a restaurant, and that just I just made Jana and Nicole look all over town for every different type of restaurant and stages. And they found everything from full on stages to coffee shops or whatever, and we ultimately went with a stage. We really had to, I think, in order to execute it the way I was thinking. Now the thing that it was very important to me that it was shot in a specific way, because I was worried that, for instance, if we didn't shoot it with 3 cameras, essentially getting all of the angles at once during a performance, when it came to the edit, we wouldn't be able to cut back and forth exactly. We'd be moving the camera all over the place, and every time we move it and move it back, it would change the height slightly. Things would change around a bit. Not to mention the amount of time I'm asking to shoot a scene 7 times with 7 different couples in one day, which is stupid and unreasonable. I ask a lot of unreasonable things of people because they keep doing them for me like dummies.
Why stop now?
So I'm just going to keep doing it.
It ended up being really simple.
Well, yeah, it did. It's true. It all ended up working really well because people were donating those assets. So we had 3 red cameras, all with lenses and tripods and all that fun stuff. We had to light for all of those cameras. The cameras were essentially pointing in every direction. So... and this is all stuff that, again, I was having a blast brainstorming beforehand. So these sorts of things occurred to me. We scheduled the day so that we would essentially spend the first 2 hours of the day not doing anything but lighting. We would light the whole thing once, and we could dedicate the time to do that, set the cameras up once, but then after that one period of time, we could just go, and you don't need to move a camera at all. You just swap your actors out, and that was the whole point. You got to be able to swap out. So in order to make that a possibility, we had to do a lot of stuff. We had to provide a lot of equipment.
All in all, though, that was like one of the smoothest shoots that we've had, with the exception of Jordan Little's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like I do feel like I did recognize as I was going through the logistics of things, I was recognizing that it was it was very conducive to the types of shorts that we're trying to shoot. It was very conducive to being shot in a day. It was very conducive to, having a single location, even a single table within that location. You don't have to
one lit setup.
Yeah, the blocking was very simple. So it was, and it was something that I was aiming for. Like I said, I knew the concept first before the script, which helped me in the end write the script to say like, okay, in the script, it has to just be about these 2 people, and they're at the table, and the only props and stuff they have to play with is what is at the table, and the only new thing that can come into their world is this waiter that's going to come in and out, and so let me structure it that way. So yeah, it helped to kind of work my way backwards, and as such, I think it was, we ended up being able to do the day successfully.
Why the headless waiter?
He's just too tall.
Man, Mike. So maybe this is the right time to sing Mike's praises. So Mike Morrissey. So there's only one character really that is consistent through all of these couples in this scene, and that's the waiter that comes in and out. And so we cast Mike Morrissey, who actually recorded an audition and sent me a video and whatever, and he was absolutely perfect. And so I didn't have to tell him to do anything different than his already natural performance, but he had to do the same performance over and over and over again. He's the only actor that had to work for all 12 hours of the day, nonstop in every single scene. And some jerk got the idea. I think it was Devino. I think it was Matt. It could have been. It could have been Chris. Some jerk had the idea. Like, well, no, we need to have him crossing in the middle of the scene. Because we want to feel him. I have him like hide. I'm like thinking like we're gonna hide him off frame, and he only comes in when we need him. He goes off when we need him because I can't coordinate all this. I can't have him walking through the frame at exactly the same line every time. I can't if he doesn't do it. If he's not perfect every time, it's gonna bone me, and I'm not gonna make my day. Why are you making that suggestion? Secretly, I was like, oh, I hate you so much for making that suggestion because it's the right idea. It's a great idea. It was a genius idea. It really brings life to the whole thing. It makes it feel natural. You can cut between Mike moving from one camera to the next, and you actually see him traveling through the space. It's amazing. It really connects everything together in a very subtle way. That I didn't want to do because I'm lazy. But Mike killed it. He nailed it. There was never a take that got boned because he was off on a cue. And when he goes and actually talks with the couples, they're giving him a different performance every time. So he has to be on his toes every time to kind of tailor his performance just a little bit. Like one of the best examples of that is Chris hanging onto the damn menu at the end of this thing when he finally pulls the menu away from him, and Chris decides like, I'm going to hang on to this thing. He's going to have to yank this thing out of my damn hand. And it was so fun. Everybody laughs at that joke.
Is that a conscious decision, Chris?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, that was his choice, but it was certainly not something that I asked him to do
Was it a choice?
beforehand.
It was one of the many choices.
It was one of the choices that actors got to make within the scenario.
Yeah.
And so Mike just killed it over and over and over again. And the worst part of all this, to bring it back to your question, is that at the end of that, and I tried to tell him up front to not get his hopes up, but I'd written the idea, but way back when I wrote the script, I thought it was so funny that the waiter would just come in and you never see their head. The camera would just going to stay down here with our actors seated, and when this waiter walks in, you're just going to chop his head off. And we're not going to tilt up to him. And the funny thing is we actually did shoot coverage of him because people were like, dude, we got to at least get some coverage so you can save your butt in post if you need to. But we ended up not using it, and I'm so happy it came out that way. But I mean,
glad you didn't use it.
It totally sucks for an actor to be like, hey man, we're not using your face.
Hey, did you see my hand?
No one's gonna recognize you.
Man, I bet you he's still stoked.
But he was super nice about it. He we worked on getting his performance into his body and hands and everything, and I think that shows like his nervousness around characters or that sort of thing. Like he was really able to like make it happen even without the use of his head.
He's such an amazing actor. It's funny because he almost doesn't care about being an actor. He's a grade school teacher and he loves his job, but he's like the best actor I've ever worked with.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys as audiences continue watching stuff with us. You'll see him time and time again because we love working with him. But he just he absolutely killed it. Despite not using his face.
So we worked with Adriana for casting. Tell some stories there.
So I don't know anything about casting. Oh, I'm a hermit. I don't go outside. I don't meet people. I don't talk to people.
These are all true.
What are you people doing in my house? These people we're recording this podcast in my house.
We're not actually here.
Because I can't leave my house and people need to come here to do things.
We Skype this whole thing.
Yeah, you had to Skype it all in. So when it came time to cast actors, normally a director would be like, I have some great actors in mind, but I do not. And not only that, but I knew I wanted to have as many actors as possible. So even when I reached out to the group,
you want new friends? Is that what you were looking for?
I'm always looking for new friends. That's an ongoing battle. But we knew we needed a lot of people, and so that was something that I think I specifically mentioned at the workshop when it was chosen. So normally at the end of the workshop, you have like DPs and stuff coming up to you and saying like, I'd like to talk to you about DPing your short. But it was more important to me was the casting, and Adriana jumped on that. She's an actress and is doing different classes and theater stuff, and just works with a whole bunch of actors.
Sacred Fools Theater, is that where she is?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Sacred Fools.
Yeah. Which is where our mailman is from.
Yeah.
As well, but she's
a director over there now.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, she's doing a bunch of really cool stuff.
She's working her way up. Yeah. Gosh darn it! But we had her. We had her both in front of the camera. We offered up to as many people here, as well, which is how we got Chris and Nicole. I think Chris, did you ask me if you could be in it?
I was determined.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to stronghold my way into this role.
Right, and
gonna
here's,
hold on to that
and here's
menu.
how he did it. So all those aforementioned awesome spreadsheets, like Chris makes all of those. Like that's how his brain works. His brain is a spreadsheet, and when he moves his hands in front of a computer, a spreadsheet is born. And
Did he just put our names in there?
and so so
Maybe.
Chris.
I don't remember, so
so
I'm reliving this moment through the story.
So Chris threw his names in there under the
Wow.
tab that had all the actors, or that the tab
And I
that,
put myself and Nicole, or
we
just
will
me?
populate with the actors, and so you put your name and Nicole in there as a pair with a
People go to
nice
jail for
note.
this, Chris.
No.
they
I mean,
don't.
there was a nice note that was like, "Hey, man, if you have a spot open, we would totally be interested in doing
We?
it."
I speak on
This is
our
what we
behalf.
call
on our behalf.
ambition.
If you
people.
got space, like we'd love to do it. It seems like it would be so much fun, and I was like, yeah, that would be freaking awesome.
I felt there was a moment though where it wasn't going to happen. I was like,
Yeah,
There
we
wasn't-
got kind of bummed.
There was a moment because Adriana like hit the gas, and she got a whole bunch of different people, and really, maybe this is the time to get into that, but this was really the point where I started to think about the whole diversity angle of this, and through the casting is that I realized very quickly that like we could cast any type of person for this, and it really almost became like a metaphor for hiring practices and that sort of thing, where it's like if there's no reason why this like a person can do this job, then there's no reason why you can't hire that person for the job. If it's based on their sex or their race or whatever, like if they can do it, then there's no more questions. So I really saw that as an opportunity to take advantage of that and to hit home that philosophy. And so then I reached back out to Adriana. I said, let's get me as diverse a cast as we can get. I want all ages. I want all races. It was one point where she was going to do the whole scene in Spanish with her scene partner, and I was like, that would be awesome. Just have a version that is all in Spanish. But that's really where we leaned into, and she was able to find people, people with handicaps, people of all different ages, sexes, sexual orientations, and that was really when I got really extra excited about the actual like shooting of it. Because before I was just like, I don't really care what those 7 couples are. They could be whatever. And it's just the concept of cutting between people is what's interesting to me. But it really got its own life of. And at that point, I started to think like, I don't want to coach these actors anymore. I don't want to give them too much information going into it. I want to see what they individually bring to the performance. And that's kind of how we ended up doing going about the day. That we would just I would have them sit, these poor actors, they would just come in with this room filled with people and have to sit down. We're like, all right, I have no notes for you guys. I'm not giving you anything. Have fun. Go for it. And action. That's so terrible. I'm so mean to the actors. I didn't even realize.
It's fine.
But everybody like was game for it, and I never really had any major notes that were like completely changing performances around. It was more so about me thinking about the pacing and how it was going to cut together and trying to improve the pacing of certain things. One thing I did have to be a stickler on though is I'm going on too many tangents. Is the dialogue. Normally, you don't want to be as strict about the dialogue. You want the actor to be able to, you take the dialogue. If it works for the actor, you keep it. But if it's not working for them, you work on making it sound real coming out of their mouth. But for this, the dialogue had to be exactly the same, or you couldn't cut back and forth between the dialogue. It wouldn't make any sense anymore. So there were times where I would harp on that more particularly than I would have liked to. Just because it would have to be exact, and for the most part, everybody, nailed it.
When you were doing the edit, did you notice anything like the word hard versus the word difficult?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
like
that's the most notorious example, and you can see if you actually really deep dive into seeing the individual cuts, you can see that Chris and Nicole's cut has a different piece of dialogue for that, which flows perfectly within your own scene.
Dang,
But-
we fucked up, is what he's saying.
No, it worked
But
out.
thank goodness you did, because I'm probably dragging us into another tangent now with the editing.
Kevin, can you explain that real quick about the different versions of the edit?
Right. So the ultimate goal was to just like edit these things willy nilly, and what I wanted to have was sort of a
Willy-nilly.
progression.
You said
Love saying willy
willy-nilly.
nilly. I wanted to have sort of a progression, right, where it's just a scene with two people. And you're watching them talk, and they're just talking, and you're like, yeah, I understand. This is a scene between two people, and they talk to each other. And then suddenly you'd have a different person. All of a sudden, Chris becomes an old Hispanic lady, and then he's Chris again. And then we're back to the couple talking, and you're like, wait a minute, did I just see like an older Hispanic lady for a second there? Or am I crazy? And then like it would just get more and more cutty until like by the end every single word maybe is a different person, and you're just going insane. And it's just this kind of, it was a
build.
A lot.
It's a
It
build.
had the build structure to it. But unfortunately, because I hate writing, I only wrote a 3.5-page script, and when it came time to actually do that and ramp it up, I wasn't able to do that within the time period. By the time I had kind of teased it, we had already gotten, a minute and a half through this 3.5-minute thing. And so I had to rethink it, and kind of went into, that final cut whole hog. We're just cutting in between people almost immediately, right from the get-go. But it was such a daunting thing. I mean, speaking of like, being lazy or running away from completing a thing, it was so daunting. I was like, this is never going to happen, because I had this terrible, stupid idea of editing this on Final Cut Pro X, which
Wow.
don't do that.
Wow.
I don't care. I don't care how little money you have. I don't care how much of an amateur you are.
It still costs money, doesn't it?
Which is even
So
bigger
don't do
insult,
that.
even greater insult.
Don't do
Don't
that.
do that. Don't edit on Final Cut Pro X. It's terrible, and it was that was a fight. But it
Brought
was
to you by Final Cut Pro X.
it was sorry. I mean, unless you guys want to sponsor me, in which case Final Cut Pro X is great.
Woohoo!
It became an almost impossible task. There were simply too many choices.
Too many choices.
Too
Yeah.
many choices, and I didn't know what to do. And so ultimately what I had to do was I edited every single couple individually.
Yeah.
Because they
Thank you.
did go through a couple different takes, and we got to get a couple versions of the performance. So there was footage to edit between within each couple. So what I did was I ended up just cutting 7 different versions of the same scene, which was super interesting in its own right. And as far as like thinking about like art installation-y type things or whatever,
totally.
it's super interesting to be
Yeah.
able to watch. And just like I really encourage people to, if they have the time and the wherewithal, to look through this, because it's really interesting. It's almost like hearing different people sing the same song.
Yeah.
Over and over again. You start to get familiar with the dialogue, and it becomes fun as an audience member to see how each character is delivering the same lines a little differently.
I definitely think it's like a template now. I feel like
Right.
it's like you were like the prototype to do. You mentioned art installation stuff,
Mhm.
and I feel like I've thought of wanting to do art installation stuff for
Mm.
video,
Mhm.
but I feel like your short was like definitely a prototype that let me see how that's even possible to even shoot.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. I did a lot of that sort of fun stuff in college, where I was like straddling the line between art and making film, and did those sorts of things. So maybe that's just kind of always been in the back of my mind. But it's a super interesting thing to check out, and I encourage everybody to check it out. It's on the video page itself. But based off of that, I was able to. Oh, you have a question?
I actually want to execute the art installation version of Choices. By the way,
Mm.
like my synapses are firing right now, and I want to like put this in a small gallery and let people enter the conversation. Let's make this. I think we can make this happen.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I got you.
once you start playing around with space as well,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're moving around from room to room and seeing the couples,
Yeah.
in different rooms or something like that. There's all sorts of fun stuff to play around with.
Yeah.
But
isolate each conversation and let people like just walk the space.
which is
Well,
funny,
that's what I'm saying. It's like
weird
a
cut came out.
Yeah.
That had everybody
Oh, yeah,
talking
I
at
love
once.
that.
That was kind of
Yes.
born out of that too. It's like, what if
Yes.
everybody was having this conversation
Yeah.
all
all
at
at the
once?
same time. Yeah.
Would that be funny? That'd be an interesting thing to do at the art installation as well, is to have speakers all over the
Yeah.
place, and you have to kind of stand in front of the right speaker if you
Yeah.
want to just listen to one couple.
I saw at the Broad, I think when it had just opened, there was like an installation of this Icelandic band that they recorded in a big house, different instruments and different things. And the installation pretty much lets you see every single room.
Oh, nice.
And then there's a moment where they all like sync up, and it's like it's kind of
feel
freaky.
the different
a little.
acoustics.
Risottos.
That's fun.
The risottos is when it sinks, bro.
That's right. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I also did that experiment. Yeah, where I was like, what if I sunk up the word 2 risottos?
And then you blast
on
risotto smell
everybody.
into the installation.
Yeah.
Now that's some,
I don't know,
that's
4D's
some
a little
4D
played out,
business
bro.
now. I'm into
Yeah.
4D.
Yeah, I don't
I'm into
know.
4D.
Thank you.
But from there, I was able to, from those 7 cuts, I was able to kind of really become familiar with, that was the way to become familiar with the footage. And based off of that, I kind of took the best of who everybody, and also tried to, evenly disperse things, which that became very difficult because I became so familiar with all the scenes that there was more footage than I could fit, and I wanted people to be repeating lines because 2 different people deliver the lines so funny in different ways, and I wanted to see them both. So that eventually I had to just kind of pick one over the other or whatever, and some people get to the cutting room floor, but it's not as painful, fortunately, because of these other 7 cuts. You can put everybody up there, everybody can see how those characters worked in their entirety if you want.
I mean, I was really thankful for that as an actor in the piece. Honestly, it was nice to have the full performance of Nicole, my significant other, and myself to like reflect on and show our friends and family. And
Did you show it?
yeah, well, like show it where? Where did you use this?
To friends and family
Yeah.
that you're speaking of?
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I like
Oh.
hey, check it out. I don't know.
I haven't.
Oh, why
Well,
not?
you can now that it's been released.
yeah,
You definitely can.
well,
Before it was under wraps for a bit.
The short film, yeah, but not our individual.
Right. Yeah,
I'm
they're
just
all
talking
out there, and yeah, I did.
They're all pretty short, too.
I'm very glad I did it. Yeah, and thank goodness it was that short because it's not so fatiguing because of that. But yeah, I was definitely thinking about the actors as well. Everybody's been really patient because we shot this last year. It's been a long time, and everybody's been waiting to see themselves, and it certainly wouldn't be super exciting if you only saw yourself in one shot. That was it. So I'm glad
Yeah, it has been cool. I basically run our Instagram account, and it's like rad to see all of the actors tagging each other and sharing and being excited. Oh, hey, it's you. Hey, oh, it's mine. Because we posted each day. We posted a different teaser with 2 different actors in it leading up to the release of the film, and yeah, it was really cool to see all of the actor interaction online.
Yeah, everybody's been really stoked about working on the project, which has been great.
It was a great project.
Hey,
Thanks for bringing it. So we were trying to actually coin it. We were trying to pick the genre for the short film, right? And we were like, Kevin said, "Oh, it's comedy," and I just was like, "No, man, you're missing something there." And then you threw out the word. Well, it was like, okay, experimental. Yeah, for sure, experimental. But like experimental comedy is like pretty long, and we use YouTube, and so that's a thing. But I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think is the right phrase to introduce that to someone who's never heard of it or seen it, or like, right? That's the first thing they see is like Assorted Kinds, short film, choices, genre.
Mm-hmm.
Why does it have to have a label?
Yeah, what do you guys think? Because I couldn't figure it out.
I mean, I've just been telling people it's an experimental comedy.
same experimental film.
Yeah, I posted it on Reddit, on one of the short film Reddits the other day, and looking through categories, experimental was the only one that I could choose that from their list that made sense to
I mean,
put
experimental is a category, so yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, but
interesting.
in when you think about the writing of it, though, like what you imagine it. If you take away the 7 couples and you just think about the writing, is it a comedy?
Yeah, it's just a very straightforward comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to make it a rom-com, even though it is about couples, because we ended up finding that couples can have all sorts of different relationships, and so the 7 different couples had various different relationships, weren't necessarily
So couples
romantic relationships.
Yeah, right.
So it's
That's
not
an
a
interesting
rom-com. But I think it's a straightforward comedy.
But
It's
he
like
picked-
an
but he-
episode of Seinfeld to me.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
Totally.
But,
Yeah,
but
kind of
even
written
the
like
way
that.
you pitched it like an experimental film.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
feel like even from the beginning, it was already known as an experimental film.
Right.
So-
Yeah. Or I mean, like I keep thinking like conceptual, but I don't think that's like necessarily the right phrase. But yeah, it's something that was primarily based on a concept first, and then the story built around that second.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with calling it
Yeah.
experimental,
Mhm.
like especially with
Except
this
for the amount of
platform.
letters on YouTube. That's all. That's the,
There's
Gosh darn it.
YouTube videos with way
Gosh
longer
darn it.
titles than what we're putting up.
Yeah,
It's
and they got
okay.
0 views, bro. 0 views.
we're trying to optimize
Trying to get
those
them
views,
views.
man.
But I mean, I love those types. We should come up with something, because I'd like to be able to like Google that term and find some new stuff to look at. Like one of my favorite movies is like Memento. That's like a perfect example of like something that was very conceptual as far as like how it's being presented. And if you just talk about like, oh, it's a story about a guy who's like trying to solve a mystery of like who killed his wife, and he doesn't have any memories, he can't make memories. It's like, all right, that's interesting. But what's interesting about it, unfortunately, it's hard to explain it to someone in
Without seeing the movie.
in less than a sentence, and maybe that's what's interesting about it and great. Certainly you run into problems when you're trying to put it on YouTube or market it. That's kind of where what phase we're in now is what to, now that it's done and actually distributed and out there, what do we do? What do we do with
It's
it?
interesting because we're now into month 4 of actually rolling out our films through Assorted Kinds, and we've been making these things now for over a year, and I think we're learning a lot. And Matt, thank you for actually really taking the torch and managing all the rollout stuff, which has been really great. In regards to like when it gets to production, I can hand off to you, and then you really take the distribution and the conversation to the next level.
Yeah,
which
and
is awesome.
all that stuff you've seen has been Matt. Like you'll notice on my profile, it's everything is a repost.
Yes.
because I'm the lazy one and Matt's the one actually doing it.
But I gotta do something while I'm drinking coffee. In the
Yeah,
morning.
right. But it's
gotta get
really
machine.
it's helpful that we have one point of contact for that, right? Who's like making that their role, and then it hits. And I think we all. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I get excited when I see it hit. Like, okay, yeah, Matt did it. Okay, that's great. And then I like do the repost, right? And I want to put my own language on the repost, and I include Matt's language, right? Because that's the Assorted Kinds language at this point. But there's we're just at the beginning of like this whole like, okay, like how do we get people to see our short films? Because we're just like a group of filmmakers who like we're just trying to we are just making stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Getting people to see the stuff you make is an entire different process.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing about short films versus features. It's like short films are a lot easier to make. They're a lot harder to get seen. Whereas a feature film, you could make a B-level feature film and just throw it on Amazon yourself, and it's still going to get seen by a lot more people than just the majority of the short films in the world. So, yeah, it's a puzzle that we're trying to solve, and I personally think it's about critical mass. I don't think it's about first week views or second week views or first year views. I think it's about building a library of work and as they say, spreading virally throughout the internet, and having one film pique interest for someone and having that lead to another film of ours, and that's what we're doing. We're building a library of short films on our YouTube channel and on our website, and they're not going away. The film can have legs for ever, basically. The internet's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing. I mean, we originally, I was just talking with Chris about that. Originally our goals were to just get it shot. Like that's the whole point. It's funny. I look back and I made a specific note to myself. I will not shoot a short film. I will not do that. I made a decision at some point
early on.
Yeah, watching so many people make short films and having nothing to show for it, and it not working, and them throwing their money away, and blah blah blah. It's like, you know what? I got to work on other people's short films enough. I've learned what you learn about it. I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. It's not worth it.
How long ago was this? When was this thought formed?
That's interesting.
I don't know.
10 years, 5 years?
No, yeah, a couple years ago. A couple years ago. Yeah,
Couple
yeah,
years,
like
okay.
like before I got in touch with Assorted Kinds.
Got it.
Um,
During Assorted Kinds? Wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it basically was very. I was like, you guys are dumb, but you guys convinced me. No, but yeah, just because you don't get anything out of it when you're talking about the conversation in terms of what am I going to get out of this? Where's my ROI? There isn't one, so don't shoot ashore. But it's like, but this Assorted Kinds group has kind of changed my perspective, and when the perspective is like the goal is just to get it shot and then finish it, you do want to finish it and get it out there and not just leave it on your shelf. There is something to be said, even if no one watches it, that you get it out there. So that's what we're doing. But we did that, so mission accomplished. I feel very satisfied and happy with what we've done, and it's great that because we can frame it that way. Now I no longer am seeing it as was it a success or was it a failure. It's a success no matter what.
You did it.
If in addition to that it goes viral or whatever, then that's also great. But it's not, my success isn't based off of that, and I think that is a great place for us to be as filmmakers.
Yeah, I think those are all great points, Kevin. I think a lot of younger filmmakers, or even filmmakers that have been doing this for a while but are like trying to break into features, have this thought in their head where I'm going to make a short film and then people are going to see it and I'm going to get a feature deal somehow out of it or something like that. And, I think sure that has happened for an extremely small minority of people. You do need short films on your reel to get money from investors to prove that you are able to make a film.
Yeah, make a narrative. You got to be able to craft a narrative. That's the important thing. However you do that to show that you can do it.
Right.
Short
Yeah,
films is
absolutely.
one way.
Right, and I think another mistake a lot of filmmakers make when they're starting to make short films is they say, look what I can make with nothing. Imagine what I can make with something. That doesn't count either. You have to prove that you can make something that is of feature quality.
Yeah.
And if you're not aiming for that, you should be. But I think what Kevin was saying, and I totally agree, at this point of this film collective, it's completely changed my perspective on making these films. We're about to make my third film that we've made with Assorted Kinds, which is crazy to me. And the weight of it is different now. The first one was like, whoa, I gotta like prove something here. I gotta, I'm gonna make this thing that's gonna take me places.
And change my life. I'm gonna show all these people that I could do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
A lot of pressure to put on that.
And it did a festival run and did well and great, and it's like it's done well so far on the internet, fine. And then we made another one, and that's going out to festivals now, and it's getting into festivals, and that's cool. And now that we're starting this third one, my mindset is so different. It's just like I just want to make it. Like I don't expect it to like do anything specific for me or my career. I just am like, this is a story I think is interesting and I want to make it, and it'll be fun to go make a movie with my friends. And that's like what we all got into this for. It's just we enjoy telling stories with motion pictures and sound, and if you can go do that, whether you're making $1 million on a big feature for a studio, or you're just doing it on the weekends with your friends here, like, I mean, the only difference is the paycheck, but like, are you getting more satisfaction out of one or the other? I'd say you might even get more satisfaction out of doing this than doing the one for the paycheck.
Dude, did anybody here actually start making films when they were a kid?
Sure.
Did you, Kevin?
Yeah, I had a video camera.
You were making
My
films,
kids
like
running
little
around.
videos and stuff?
Yeah, I had for my 13th birthday, my dad bought me a mini DV camera and the first iMac with Final Cut Pro 1 on it.
Whoa,
Yeah.
with the green backing?
With the green backing. It had a mini DV port on it, so it was a big deal.
Did you get an orange mini DV cable?
No, I had a like a clear one, so you could see through
Heck yeah, you
the
see the
wires.
braid inside there? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I found out early on in high school that I could make video essays instead of writing actual
Oh,
essays.
right.
There were a
I
couple
did
of
the same thing.
teachers
Teachers love
that I
that
were
shit.
able to convince, like, hey, what if I shoot a whole full featured movie instead of writing this 5-page essay that I really don't want to write?
Yeah.
And so I made
you guys, Kevin hates writing in all forms.
I hate writing. I hate it. I would much rather shoot a video about Schindler's List, which is what we did. Little
that's
7th
interesting.
graders making a little Schindler's
Schindler's
List
List.
video.
Wow.
We made a Schindler's
shouldn't even
List
be wa-
movie,
shouldn't even be
and I had
watching
to
it.
edit it on 2 VCRs. I had to cut it together by using 2 VCRs. That's how old I am.
Well, yeah.
Can I speak to that about that? Can we speak it on here? Cause
Yes.
This microphone-
Yeah, do it.
Dave's gonna take my microphone.
Yeah.
Get in there.
for
Get
a
in
bit.
there.
I actually want to speak on that about like making films when you're a kid. I didn't have that privilege. I didn't have. My dad had a video camera, a very old one from the '80s, and it wasn't work like I wanted to shoot with it, but something was up with the battery, so it always needed to be plugged in. So I never was able to like use it for what I wanted. And when I went to film school, I remember that was always something that kind of made me feel a little left out because a lot of the kids that were at film school were like,
Right.
yeah, I used to shoot when I was like 12 and I had a camera, and I used to feel sort of like, oh, I'm not worthy enough to do that. And I think growing up, I found alternatives to that. That's why how I got into photography.
Yeah.
And I learned how to tell a story with photographs, and at the same time I was going to the movies. I was renting movies from like the Korean
Blockbuster?
No, actually they would
I thought you were about to say the Korean market.
No, the Korean guy who owned the video store down the street from me, he didn't check my ID. So I was able to rent like Pulp Fiction.
You had to hook
and, like,
up.
Yeah. So I was able to like rent all these R-rated movies when I was like
Yes.
15, and that allowed me to sort of appreciate all these different kinds of films that were already out there. And I was able to go into film school with an appreciation for film,
Right.
with a background in photography. So
That's
I knew
what you
how to
need.
tell stories, yeah. And so, whoever's listening to this and feels like, oh, I didn't make movies when I was like 13 or 15. I mean, it's different now, I guess. Like,
Everybody's got phones.
everybody's
It's
got
crazy,
phones. I
man.
feel like it was almost accessible like 10 years ago,
crazy.
more so than
People still don't use
Yeah.
them.
But
Yeah,
and that's
true.
the interesting
I
thing.
think
It's like
some people do.
people are
I think there's
using-
people out there doing it.
people
and
are using it to like brand themselves, tell their own story, sort
Yeah.
of thing. But there is like I don't think there's a lot of them using it to do this
Tell stories.
storytelling that
Yeah.
you're talking about.
I think kids might be doing it.
I hope so,
I
man.
hope they
I
are
really-
because the
that should be
fucking
cool,
phone
man.
is
yeah.
my iPhone is 1,000 times higher quality
It's so
than
crazy.
like
EX2000.
Yeah.
than the
so
mini DV cameras I was
Yeah.
shooting on in film
Yeah,
school
yeah,
and
yeah.
college.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wonder.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta wonder.
Yeah. No, but I feel like kids still are lazy. And, like, there is some
Yeah.
laziness there, and like some almost apprehension of like not wanting to like do it just because you feel like you shouldn't or whatever. But like I feel like anybody who's kind of our age, I guess, and feels like that kind of like, oh, I didn't do this, so I don't feel like I'm worthy enough to do it. It's like, no, if you have an appreciation for it, if you have taste, if you feel like you know how to tell a story visually, you should just do it.
What do you mean by taste? When you say have taste,
Mm.
I've said this a few times, and then I start thinking about myself. I don't have a microphone. Sorry.
It's okay, we hear you.
What
Play musical
I've
chairs.
said something about in regards to like having taste when being a creative in any of these fields, right? And
Yeah.
filmmaking is just one
Yeah.
form of communication and creativity, and but like I don't know. I just want to get your perspective on taste.
You know what you like,
Right.
and you know how there's that. I don't remember what reporter kind of had like a whole like talk on like his NPR show where he said that there's like a gap between like taste and our skills, and that's why we feel that frustration. And the more we do our skill, the closer the smaller the gap gets. And then when our
that's
taste
interesting.
matches our skill,
Yeah.
that's when we actually feel like
Oh,
Yeah,
I
specifically
satisfied.
towards
Figured it out.
artists. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
specifically
You're
towards
working
artists, yeah.
towards
Yeah.
improving your craft.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
like I figured out like
It-
what I actually like about
Yeah.
the stories
Mhm.
that I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm choosing, the communication I'm choosing, because I mean art is communication,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
and filmmaking is communication,
right. Like I feel like I know how, like, I can watch a superhero movie or like a Chris Nolan movie and go like, that is amazing,
Mhm.
but I have no idea how to shoot a stunt. You know,
Right,
I have no
right.
idea how to direct a
Right.
massive car
Stunts.
chase. Like I could watch a bunch of movies and figure it out, but like I have never done that, you know, but I know what looks good. So, I mean, who knows that if I'm put in that situation, I know how to visualize it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I know what visually I like and what that's what I would feel my taste is.
I was gonna say I feel like that taste or that description of taste is really it's really all I think about when you're talking about being a director, or do you want to be a director? I think a lot of people, when they're just like, I want to be the chief storyteller or whatever, they're just kind of defaulting to like, I want to be the director.
Right.
And it's funny, I just talked to like a story developer person he's living in development of stories, and when you're like, so ultimately you want to be a director, right? You're just here to as a stepping stone. He was like, no, I do not want to be a director, because he doesn't have those opinions on things. He can't be presented things and say, this is what I want. And you need to be able to very, specifically, strictly say, like, as a director, this is what I want. And you need to back it up, obviously, and give people reasons why you do it. And ultimately, it needs to lead to something interesting. But you have to have that taste. And I think that people can work on telling stories. People can work in film. People can be in this business without necessarily
doing the thing,
being fit to be a director.
Right.
Because some people don't have that specificity in their tastes.
I mean, I feel like this short is perfect example, because you said Kevin was a sound guy, he was an audio guy. You hadn't directed anything.
Yeah,
right.
For the most part.
So
he does nothing.
But he knows, he knew what was gonna work.
Yeah.
Like he knew, like, what kind of performance he wanted to get out of his actors. He knew how he wanted it to look.
Right.
So his taste was there, regardless of whether he had directed or not.
Right.
So his appreciation and his ability to see what he wanted, coupled with the skills of all of us around, making sure we got there, was able to kind of push this forward.
And the schedule on this project was very forgiving, but the most recent project I just did, the schedule was very unforgiving, and I set it up to be very, very difficult. And when you're in those sorts of scenarios, that's really where you can't hesitate at all. You can't be wishy-washy on how things are going to get done. You have to be very decisive, and if you're really making the project ambitious, you have to figure out a lot of this stuff before you're even on set.
Yes.
But it's that's a very important thing for the director
Yeah,
to do.
We'll talk about that when that film comes out for sure. But David and I produced that together, and Jana did it.
I can't wait to do the next podcast with you guys about that.
Man, like I want to talk about that film now because it's such a perfect example of this.
Too bad.
Hold on to it.
God, it's
a perfect example of taste. A perfect example of what?
Of a director like having a vision in their mind and bringing it out, like getting the crew to bring it out, because I wasn't seeing the same things that Kevin was, and I had to trust him as the director. And when we put the camera up in that location and started shooting it, I was like, I got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
As a producer the whole way, I had to worry. I was like, worry. And then we started shooting. I was like, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You just said that, but we're kind of also in the middle of it. I realized the good differences of having different, visual artists on this group is because, with Matt's film right now that we're doing, when he first presented it, I know we're in the middle of we're working on it, but when he first presented
Van Jinx?
we're Van Jinx.
Yeah.
I'm the type of the director that would have just been like, all right, we're going to go out in the desert one day and shoot the entire thing in a car.
Right.
And do it all raw.
Yeah.
But then Matt's like, no, I kind of want to shoot it like this and in a studio. And then he kind of did a test run with Jana, in their driveway. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense. But he has different ways of doing it. I would have done it out in the desert, it was been hot. It would have been like, oh, you guys have to drive back and forth. I would have done it like that. But he does it in a much more controlled environment, and that kind of gives you an example of, two different people looking at one thing differently. You know what I mean? You saw, the other film one way, and now he saw it another way.
So is that taste?
Or
is that the same? Yeah. Is that the same?
Choices.
It's a choices. Is it taste? I think.
Or is it just I mean, it's like, oh, we're gonna do it this way because it's gonna be easier. Like,
No, I didn't see it as something as being easier.
For me, yeah, it's not about being easier.
No, yeah.
It is about being safer.
practicality.
yeah.
It's like there's some practicality.
But I
to it.
also, for me, like what I want to do with the camera, I can't do it with the car and a rig and paying cops and all this stuff.
Yeah, right.
And
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I watched a whole shitload of True Detective this
Yeah.
year, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like their car stuff's amazing,
Yeah.
and that's all green screen, and I can
okay.
do moving camera stuff. And anyway, yeah. We'll talk about that in a year when that movie's out.
Choices.
It's funny because we're
Choices.
talking about films that we made a year ago now, and we're currently in the making of films that we're not going to get to talk about for another year.
Yeah, it's amazing how you remember anything from Choices.
Yeah.
You guys are lucky
Right.
getting anything out of me.
I remember going to that bar for the rap party afterward
Hey,
and being
that's
like, who
right, I
are
forgot
these
about that.
locals?
Yeah, that was weird. That's a little weird.
There's a story I want to tell, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
But I think
That's cool.
but to go back on the thing about taste, I feel like taste is just more about like you appreciate, like seeing something that you appreciate and you know that that is good to you. And I feel like that this film is a perfect example of that. The Choices is a perfect example of that. Is him, you know, having not directed something before, knowing exactly what was going to work for this film.
And that was something that I've been trying to focus on over the years is just like recognizing that, you know, before it used to just be watching movies and figuring out what I appreciate about them and making note of that. But at some point you kind of graduate into like, how would I do it different?
Yeah.
Or if I'm reacting negatively to something, why is that? You know, and what would I do?
Yeah.
What would I do differently? And I also think that it's another reason to have, you know, as great a story as you possibly can. I think that, you know, when the story can help you solidify things in your mind just because of that, you just imagining how the story is done. You know, by the time I was done writing that script, I knew that the waiter's head was going to get cut off, and I knew I was going to make that decision, and it wasn't just kind of like, I've always wanted to do that, and now I get a chance to do it. It was just like, it was born out of reading that in the script and visualizing it in my head, laughing out loud to nobody, like you do, and then being like, yeah, that's got to go in there.
So Kevin, was this actually the first thing you ever directed?
I don't remember.
It's been a lot of years, right?
It's been a long time. I mean, I've worked on spec commercials. I've directed some spec commercials.
I'm gonna make money with this idea. Watch this.
No, it was like more so like it was like more so. There's a website where
one of those things
where brands who have more money than they know what to do with get your commercials for free in hopes that you can be successful.
I know those websites.
Yeah,
I know those
jeez
websites
Louise.
too.
Bullshit.
Yeah, that sucks.
They milked every single one of us at one point in our lives, though.
Yeah. I directed a commercial with a now star of a show, Pen 15, on Hulu. That was my big star turn. I feel like, have I directed? I've just been in the producing role a lot.
Okay.
And so I've been able to be involved in the creative, not as much as I've wanted to, but I spent a lot of my post-college life working with other people and trying to bring them up, and doing my own crazy Assorted Kinds collectives type things, except they involve cabins out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and hippie communes and stuff, and I can't get too deep into that, but
Well, you'll write a short film about that.
yeah, eventually that'll come out in my writing, but I just wanted to. I found myself in an office too much, not being on set, and so eventually I quit doing that. And went into sound as a thing that like was a practical thing that I could do. It's something I had experience with and learned to do in college and had some success with that. And so I kind of knew my way around it. And I just wanted to be on set and have a thing that I could focus on that was just not scheduling actors, not whether or not my location was going to fall through. I just hate. Thank you guys again. Thank you guys so much again for producing my stuff. Thank you so much.
Nicole and
Because
Jana.
I hate it.
Should we high five again?
It literally just like it broke me. That was them giving each other a high five, which they wholeheartedly deserve.
We saw it.
But you just heard it. Yeah, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to deal with something practically in my hands, in front of me, and sound is what I knew. Unfortunately, you can't set. Well, it's not you can't, but it's less common for someone to segue from sound into the creative world than, let's say, for a DP or an assistant director. A lot of people assistant direct first because, hey, director's in the name, right? You're only half a step away, and then you become a director from there. But I found myself then after a good, I don't know, almost a decade of doing that I was kind of stuck in it and wanted to get back in the creative, had no idea how to do it.
You felt stuck.
Absolutely. That's why I was like, and I'm not going to shoot a short film. That was already a foregone conclusion. I'm not going to go spend my own money on a short film because I've been told it's a bad idea, so I'm not going to do it. So that's it. All prospects are done, and you're just going to do sound until I win the lottery, and then I can really throw away $3 million on making whatever I want.
I'm just so curious how many people are on set who feel like they're stuck in the role that they're doing and that they just want to be doing something different.
A lot.
Yeah,
I one or two. I honestly go back and forth, especially with my experience with this group and learning that there are a lot of people who, even if they want to be a part of a group like this or films like this, that they don't want to. They're not looking for their chance to tell the stories they've always been itching to tell. So I'm curious how many people are actually like, man, I just wish I could be directing and writing stories, but I'm stuck here as the wardrobe or something like that. I wonder.
I mean, you mentioned we bring up these stories or these concepts all the time, right? Like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if? And then you don't ever do it. And I'm sure that the wardrobe department probably does the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
And then
I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are they're cool with their day job of being wardrobe or being the fucking craft services or whatever. They just like movies and they want to be on set and they find it interesting to be on set. There's plenty of those. Sure, there's also plenty of people that wish they were directing or producing or writing or whatever, and they're doing their job for the same reason, because at least they're on set and they're making movies, and it could be worse. They could not be making movies at all. So and you know what, I think that happens at all levels, and I think there's probably tons of successful commercial directors that wish they're doing features, and there's tons of documentary directors that wish they're doing features, and there's probably feature directors out there doing indie features that wish they're doing commercials because they would make a paycheck, you know, and I think it's just
I mean, look at how we were. I mean, we were been making content for almost 10 years, and music videos, tour stuff, documentary stuff, commercial stuff, and look what it took for us to just be in all the conversations we had. Look what it took for us to just start telling narrative stories.
It took each of us to look each other in the eyes and say, you feel the same way I feel, right? I'm not super into this. I'm just doing it because I gotta pay the bills,
right?
And you feel the same way. You feel that way. You feel that way, right?
But I really can't stress enough how unique this group, how unique Assorted Kinds is in that regard. It doesn't. There are it's I agree. There are people, endless amounts of people out there that are what if, and that's about as far as it gets. And there's a reason that's about as far as it gets. Assorted Kinds is not my first rodeo. Technically, I've been a part of several of ventures that didn't make it over time, and it requires a lot of effort from the people who are organizing all of that, and that can't be underestimated. And even with all that effort, even then, it doesn't guarantee success because of I feel like what this group has that's extra special is the vibe. For lack of a better term, but there's just sort of there's an openness, there's an inclusiveness. It's not everybody individually going out for their one thing. it's a lot of people getting together and helping each other out, and we have a way of bringing people into the group that you don't run into people who are just one and done. They're going to do their thing and then that's it.
Yeah.
And that's like a very difficult thing to cultivate. It's amazing that we've gotten this far with it, and there's no signs of it of it slowing down. So that's amazing.
You guys know I didn't think it was going to get very far, right?
No, well, you know what I was about to say is that, like, I don't know if the group would still be here if we hadn't gotten organized and called it Assorted Kinds and sat down and created a release schedule. Because, when I first joined, when I shot my film, I had no idea where it was going to go. I mean, I saw Devino put it in festivals. I was like, well, I guess that's where I got to do. But, like, after months of constantly shooting different shorts, and then when we finally all sat down, decided to kind of create a release schedule, create a hub for it on YouTube and stuff like that, I feel like that's when it really kind of locked itself in.
Did it feel real at that point? Like
Not so much real, but it felt like, oh, we're really gonna, like, instead of it being like a ragtag thing where, like, oh, we're just gonna help each other shoot our films and then do whatever you want with it. It actually felt like wherever it goes, it's gonna be always released here, even if it goes on a 2-year festival run.
Yeah, a single portal.
Yeah,
it gives it a collective purpose.
Yeah, it gives it a collective purpose.
And that was a big push for me, getting over the hump of I'm not doing a short film. There's no value in it. It's like, okay, well, now I can put a short film out and it becomes part of this collective group that it's attached to any other number of films. Like, now it's not just all predicated on whether or not your one thing is good enough, whether or not your one thing happens to resonate with people.
Yeah.
You're part of this collective, which is a safety net for everybody. And that was a big factor to me being like, I should make this and just put it out there. It'd be better than me just doing it on my own, putting it on my own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'd love to get Nicole and Jana's thoughts on this. Like, you can tell by the four of us, we're all these sort of like disgruntled filmmakers in a way, and you guys aren't. Like, what does this feel like from your perspective, looking in from the outside? How do you see what we're doing, and what does it mean to you guys?
Are we just too into ourselves? Is that the problem? You could be honest, honestly.
Do it.
I mean, everyone knows that I don't have a creative bone in my body, so you guys keep letting me show up to things. But no, in all honesty, it's great because everyone has so much experience, and it's so different from each other. You also have your own equipment, so that helps. But you have willing participants and people with passion, and, who wants to spend 12 hours with a group of people for free on a weekend when, you just did a shoot overnight and you got home at 5 a.m. So I think the, go-getterness, but also the inclusiveness to have people in roles that have never done it before, or even
supporting
supporting that. I mean, I don't want to get behind a camera, but going to our monthly meetings, when we read scripts and we give feedback, it's kind of one of those things where it gets you thinking, well, maybe I can write something, and I've never written anything before. I write in a journal, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So, that's what's really enticing to me.
I think Jana keeps saying that she's not imaginative and she doesn't have a creative bone in her body, but all her creativity goes into, when she organizes the spreadsheets and produces and has to figure things out and has to get the set together and make sure everyone's working together. That takes more creativity, I think, than people kind of realize. I guess?
Absolutely, yeah. All I'm doing is just looking at my script and doing well, this is what we need to do. Like Jana has to deal with random stuff that comes up out of nowhere. Oh, we don't have this, we don't have that.
Yeah. Creative problem solving.
That's very difficult.
Jana's creativity allows the other creatives to be creatives in their area.
Yeah.
But she is also creative in her area.
Yeah.
And touching on what she said, like people writing journals and stuff like that, it allows people, I feel like, to kind of hone in on their own creativity that maybe they didn't even know was there, like Kat wanting to write and, you know, wanting to be behind the camera. Like, she didn't know that before, you know, she's realizing that now on this. And she's...
Who's Kat?
Katrina, she
was on
helped with
Choices.
set. Yeah, she helped with
set
deck.
decoration.
Matt, you didn't ask that because you don't know who Kat is. You asked that because you wanted clarity.
Matt truly does not know who anyone is from moment to moment.
I don't know where I am.
Kat is not.
Jen just leaves her
She's
around.
not in the industry, and she's not like, you know.
Yeah.
And neither is Scott or her husband, and
That's
they are
interesting. I
the
didn't know
most
that.
helpful,
They're so
creative in their, you know,
Yeah.
in however they put themselves in the roles that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
in for the group,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and.
They're both
It's-
on the birthday. What's up?
But it's cool to watch them like kind of flower, and you know, both of them want to write, and Scott's super excited about it, and everyone's coddling that in the same way as, you know, we coddled Kevin so he could direct his own, the same way that we coddle whoever else so they can write their own, the same way we coddle the AD so that they're, you know, it's like everyone's just helping everyone, which is nice.
Yeah, and that is so unique. I mean, even within our, like, I don't want to get too deep with this, but even I've just been thinking about our culture as Americans, and this sort of like, you got to do it by yourself. No one's if you
You're on
don't
your own.
if you don't do it, no one's gonna do it.
Yeah.
You got to just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. If you work hard enough, you can do it. And it's just like, no, we're
think
all
we're imploding.
there's
I
so
think we're
many
in the-
other people around
I don't have boots, sir.
to help each other, you know, like
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to be perfect at
Yeah.
everything. You shouldn't have
Right.
to
Yeah.
be an expert at everything. It's impossible. There's not enough days in the year, and there's not enough brain cells in your head. You need to look around to other people and you know, work together with other people, and I've been harping on that. I feel like I've been just yelling at a wall since after college. I literally did everything I could to bring all these people together to try to work together, and we were all so young and trying to figure out what we needed to do with our lives, that it just, that concept couldn't permeate, and it really took what was this was like 2005, and now it's 2019, so it took like 14 years for me to find that.
Right.
That's how long it took, and I was looking every day for it. So this is a very unique and amazing thing, and I think it's something that we need more of as a culture, to say,
Right.
like, it's not about, I'm just gonna do this all by myself. It's me against the world. Everybody's out to get me, or I got to get them, and that's the way we're gonna, you know, survive. I just think, like, at a deeper level, like, lots of thought processes need changing, and this is a perfect example of where I think it should go.
I mean, I've felt siloed for the better half of a decade, right? I mean, Matt and I have worked together since we moved. We both moved here about the same time, and like, we're friends and we're collaborators and we work together all the time. But like, I still feel alone in most of my endeavors because I feel like I have to carry the boulder or push the boulder down the street. If I don't do it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not alone in that
Right.
feeling. I do.
Yeah, a lot of
I feel
people
that way
feel
for
that way.
myself.
Right.
Sure.
And it's when we look each other in the face and say, "Hey, man, like, I need some help. Like, are you down to help me? Like, I'll help you next month if you help me this month."
We did that last night.
Yeah, we did it last night.
We shot until
10 hours
5 in the
ago?
morning.
Yeah.
And you know, something that I don't normally do, but it's like, Chris needed help. I said, hey,
Yeah, thank you.
I got you, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, you know, we're talking about, like, this is our culture being taught to, like, oh, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and, like, just do it yourself. If you don't do it, it's not going to happen. And, like, yeah, and that is the truth.
Well, there's two sides of that.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of spoiled kids that are being brought up right now that have no patience, and they don't have any. They want everything. They expect everything to just be thrown at their feet. That, I think, there's this definite problem with. But there is also the problem with people that work hard that do a good job and that study and that, you know, do all the things where it should lead them in the path and they're still having a hard time. And those people should be rewarded. And I feel like the people in the group are those people.
But what happens when they're not?
Rewarded?
Yeah, what happens when they're not rewarded and they people have picked themselves up by their bootstraps and they have gotten to they're barely surviving.
Right.
Well, that's essentially the millennial generation.
Yeah,
We've
financial
worked,
gaps.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, we've done everything they said was the right thing to do, and we're still not as established or have things together as like our parents' generation did.
Right, because I mean, I think we believe that back then, at least is what my dad tells me, is he's just like, oh, I didn't have to be smart at all. I just had to work hard.
Right.
I just had to set my mind on a thing, and if I worked hard enough at it, long enough at it, dedicated myself to it, I'd eventually make my way up, and he did.
Yeah.
But he kind of understands. He's just like, it doesn't seem to be the case
It's a different world
anymore.
now. Yeah.
And it's interesting, I guess, that like most change doesn't happen unless you're forced into it. So forcing ourselves or subsequent generations to like have to re-examine things and think about working together in situations where you normally would not, or recognizing the hard work instead of just whoever's yelling the loudest. I think it's may not be pleasant forcing us into that, but that may be where we're headed.
It also doesn't help that we've all chosen a career that has no actual career path.
That too.
What do you mean? There's an industry that's been built. Like we have.
Look, hey, if you want to be a DP, sure, you can go become a camera PA. You can join the union. You can go become a second AC. Then you can become a first AC. Then maybe a DP. You can become a camera operator in there somewhere. If you want to be a director, there is no career path. You have to figure that out, and every single person that has ever become a director has done it completely differently than the other person, and there's no one right way to do it.
Yeah.
So, yay for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's why that taste comes into play. Like, so you got to anchor yourself to something. You got to attach yourself to something. So it's like, all right, let me hone in my taste, and hopefully it coincides with something that is maybe marketable or something someone wants to put money behind because it's exciting, whatever, and kind of work your way into directing that way. But you're right. It's not really a lot of avenues, which is why we had to, create this out of nothing.
To just
and here
do
we
it
are.
because we really we cannot live without doing it.
Yeah.
Like
I'm just physically compelled to do it. I can't not like there's like spending time with my wife and directing movies are like my two favorite things on earth, and other than that, shit kind of sucks. But
well, all right. I mean,
that's the great thing about Matt. It's like I have no problem just being lazy and like sitting around watching TV and just like passing time and like just getting older and not doing anything. But Matt's like, oh no, what are you talking about? You gotta do stuff.
Yeah, do stuff.
I'm gonna be like dead before I know it, so
Yeah,
I better do something before I
he's
fucking.
burning
That's
that
what I think
candle.
about often. I'm like, I don't have that many
Mortgage
years
to
left.
pay
I gotta
for.
like do some stuff. I gotta like tell some stories before, at least leave something there for someone to find.
Yeah, see, that's why I gotta get as much TV time in as possible. I'm not gonna be around forever. Deadwood is not gonna watch itself. Oh yeah, so I'm watching Deadwood because I don't have HBO, so I can't watch Game of Thrones. So I'm just rewatching Deadwood.
You can have my login, bro.
Sweet.
Okay.
All right. Anything else
that's
you
it.
want to wrap up? Is
We're wrapping it
is
up.
there a way to wrap up?
Okay,
We didn't really
so,
talk about that.
you
How does
guys,
that happen?
Jana's got something to say
Okay.
before we wrap
Sorry
up.
to interrupt.
Yeah,
I just
please.
wanted to give a shout out to the 3 background actors that sat
yes,
still for
please.
12
Oh.
hours. Hayden, Steph, and our dear neighbor Courtney.
And
Tom LaRoche.
And Tom LaRoche. I'm sorry, Tom. Tom, we love you.
Thanks, guys. You guys were awesome.
Yeah, along with Mike, they really had to just sit there all day long. And
literally
and
sat in the
president,
same
yeah.
seat.
They had
True
to,
stars of the
yeah,
film.
they had to act like they were having engaging conversations while not actually making any noise for 12 hours
How
straight.
daunting.
Some sort of a torture, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, guys, you can check out Choices on assortedkinds.com.
Yay.
You can also find it on our YouTube channel, which we haven't hit 100 subscribers yet, so we can't get Assorted Kinds on YouTube. But
It'll
if you
happen
subscribe to us on YouTube, then
Please subscribe.
you may help us
Please
actually
like.
get youtube.com/assortedkinds.
Yeah, think of it as like a favor to yourself, so you don't have to type in that weird string of numbers afterwards. It can
Right.
just be YouTube
Or use
/assorted kinds.
Yeah, you don't have to use the search little bar.
Yeah, like a
thing.
Luddite.
How many are we at?
We're like
Luddite.
64.
Oh, we are close.
Yeah,
we're
really
close.
Only like 40
So
people.
we'll get there. Another couple of launches and it'll be fine. All right.
So check us out. Check all 8 videos. I got a lot of videos. Sorry, I just
the
regurgitated
montage.
a bunch of videos.
There's the choices montage edit, which was the original concept, and
Yep.
then there are 7 individual choices performances for each of the 7 couples.
Check them out.
Check them out. Please share something if something strikes you and you enjoy it. Please share it so somebody else can enjoy it as well. That is the only way you get to spread the Assorted Kinds love.
Yes.
Also, there's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. But
Yeah, we're around. Everything's at Assorted Kinds. It's all nice and cut and dry, easy to remember.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. Anybody want to add anything before we leave? Great talk.
See ya.
Great
Bye.
talk. Bye.